Good morning, Andrew. How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing good. So, welcome back to Office Hours. It's
Thanks.
been a while, right?
It has.
So, anything interesting happened lately?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to travel around the world a few times since then. As you can imagine, a lot of AI-centered projects. So I'm in innovation and change, and the vast majority of innovation budgets right now are towards AI projects, and the vast majority of change budgets right now are towards AI adoption. So that's been my life, and it's been exciting. Yeah, a lot of interesting people doing interesting things, but you also see a lot of the pushback or let's say like apathy, people not buying in that you might expect as well.
hmm Wow. So, well, let's talk about the countries. One for traveling. Which country have you been?
So far this year, I just got back from Estonia, and I know that sounds weird, everyone. Estonia, it's a
Estonia?
small country,
Yeah,
but
it is.
they're the first. They call themselves the world's first digital society.
Hmm.
So they had this small country, Baltic country, had a chief information officer years ago, and you can pay your bills with crypto. There's um, a complete digital society. Nobody needs cash or anything like that. I've also been to China a few times in the last year, as you know, and I've spent a lot of time in China over the years, and they have been digital for what seems like far longer. So great for Estonia, but I know there are other digital societies as well.
Wow. I mean, that sounds amazing. I mean, any place that I haven't been to, I'm always like, okay, wow. And then, like, it's a small country,
Yeah.
um, but like, what is besides the digital society, what else are they known for? Good food
Yeah.
or,
Estonia is a Nordic country. It's cool to travel places and just learn things from people. And I didn't know much about it, but there was a time, maybe maybe more than hundreds of years ago, maybe into the thousands of years ago, where it could have been seen as like a capital of the European continent. So it's on the Baltic Sea, bordering Russia, and so in the city, there's like this hill, this mountain that you climb, and it's an old city. So it's got old castles and buildings, things from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So it's got an incredible history. And it's not that far away from Finland across the ocean. Very cool place.
yeah, it sounds like it. And what other country did you go to? Well, because you said I know I've seen like some of your pictures, and I saw you were traveling. Meanwhile, I'm still in New York,
Mhm.
so I haven't traveled anywhere. So we're living vicariously through you right now.
Yeah, no, I'm just privileged to have that as a part of my role, like setting up, doing keynotes and setting up partners and things like that, running innovation projects all over the world. So I'm based in Toronto, but I've been to America many times, as you know, to New York,
Yeah.
and then places like Houston, Miami, the Bay Area. Quite a lot of time in those places where people invest a lot in innovation and invest a lot in people. And then, yeah, the UK, so London. I'll head to Barcelona next week. As mentioned, China, Guangzhou,
Wait,
Shanghai. Yeah.
wait. When are you going back to London? Or you've
I've been there in the recent past.
okay? I don't know why I thought you were going back before the year's up.
I'd love to, but yeah, no such plan right now.
All right, because I'm headed to London, so that's why I was
Oh,
asking.
cool. Yeah, no, let me know, and maybe could introduce you to some folks as well.
Yeah, yeah, I will definitely. First week in November, I'll send you the information.
Cool.
So, but yeah, London. I've always been. I stopped you for London because each time I go, there's like certain foods that you have to go through certain neighborhoods, and
Yeah, so you're Nigerian. Like they have one of the, I think the biggest like Nigerian community outside of Africa is in London, right? and like
Hmm.
awesome food, a Michelin starred Nigerian restaurant that's getting a lot of noise there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's really good. So, I mean, the only thing I've wanted to know is, have you been to the Caribbean islands in
Ye-
this cycle?
I I was on the Caribbean in Mexico the last 2 years. I've so being Canadian, to our friends in Africa, like Canada is so cold, you like just can't imagine. And in February it gets so cold, and I was lucky to be able to work from Curacao um,
Wow,
in 2023 and 2024 for the month of February.
wow.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
was
it's
your favorite
pretty
food?
cool.
What was your favorite food while you were there?
Curacao, so it's a tiny little island, so anything that you get out of the sea is just like right out of the sea. So yeah, that for anyone that likes fish, the fish that they have there is amazing, shrimp and stuff like that.
Wow, that sounds
Mhm.
really good. I mean, it just sounds yummy.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's a
focus on
cool
food.
little culture.
Yeah, sorry. I tend to focus on food when I'm traveling.
Likewise, it's a great way to experience like a culture, right? So,
Right.
mhm.
What What's been your favorite place to travel to overall? Like out of all the places that you've ever been to, what was the most memorable, and why?
Yeah, so I'll say China, and like Shanghai is, a city of like 30 million people. Like it's even bigger than Lagos, and it's enormous. Beijing is also huge, and Guangzhou. What I like big cities and places like that. But what I like about going to China is it's just so different from where I grew up, and you get a media diet that tells you different things about different continents and countries and people. But when you go to these places, it's just like there's good people everywhere. And so it's great to be surrounded with people that have had very different experiences than me.
Hmm.
And like when you go and experience food in a place like China, compared to like the North American diet, it's just so radically different. Everything's alien. And for those of you that are joining, like that have tech careers and tech ambitions, they are years ahead of like North America digitally.
Hmm.
So things like AI adoption or the super apps, things like WeChat and their Alipay apps. It's
Hmm.
I'd encourage anyone in technology to research some of their super apps because it's a glimpse into the future for us. And so when you're there, when I'm there, I'm like a lost child. You can't. The digital society is also insular, like so to try and catch up with a different language, it's good to feel like a baby sometimes and know how ignorant you are.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly what everyone has said. Being in North America, you get delusional sometimes.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so just because you think you are, but then you go to places like that and you're like, oh wow, oh okay, they had this. Oh wow, they've created this already. So I
Mhm.
think it's pretty cool. So let's go back to what you said about AI, right? Because I noticed during United Nations Week that that was obviously the favorite topic, and what we're noticing, what I noticed during UN Week is that a lot of people were in the stage of building out, a lot of their startups, right?
Hmm.
Myself included. But everyone was in the phase of building, whether it was mentorship or whether it was logistics or whether countries are um, signing deals regarding how they're going to build out AI. So, especially the infrastructure, because AI takes a lot of data, which could crash.
Storage, energy, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which could crash a lot of systems. And I think that's the part that most people generally miss is that it requires even more data than what we're currently using now. So, what interesting projects have you seen? And, have you seen anyone address the fact that, there could be a data issue? I mean, not a data issue, but a power issue. Um,
Yeah.
as we launch AI, because I know North America has great power most of the time, but, the launch of that is going to be a,
Yeah, maybe a question for the group here, and I know a lot of people watch this afterwards, but Lisa Rovine, Magdalene, Shannon, welcome, hi. I wonder if all of you don't mind entering into chat, what's your like LLM of choice? I'd be interested in that, and then I'd be interested to hear who has used DeepSeek. DeepSeek being one of the Chinese models that they very cleverly have put together a hyper effective and efficient LLM that draws on like less power. I don't truly understand the way the model works, but there's some interesting innovation happening there, like the how we can make the models themselves use less processing power, and so that would be interesting. But yeah, there are a lot of people thinking about how do we power these things, what's data storage going to look like, and it is part of the issue. So countries, organizations that have a lot to invest in, like underground data storage. Hi, Shannon. You've tried DeepSeek once. Like, you know, keep pushing. As with any LLM, you learn what it's good at, what it's bad at. Uh, so those countries that have a lot to invest, or organization in power, like um, one of the big tech firms looking to open up their own nuclear energy facility, it it kind of highlights, and I'm sure you heard a bit of this at the UN, a growing divide of who has the best access to these tools. Right now, there's so much money going into AI, and there are so few people taking money out or benefiting it. So, to me, a lot of the interesting work is people who are thinking about um, closing that divide, making the right kind of tooling available to everyone in a way that doesn't burn too much energy, yeah, can kind of democratize access. Um,
When you said, let me bring Liz up. Um, any of you guys have any questions about what we're talking about that's currently on the stage? Would you like to add a comment? Inviting.
Great. As folks are getting invited, I'll also build on this. Welcome, Elizabeth. Um, you mentioned what kind of interesting projects there are. I'm sure in the startup community you were speaking to, you've heard a lot about digital or AI nativity.
Hmm.
So a lot of organizations they've got their offer, and now they're building on AI features, which of course they should and need to experiment there. But it's sometimes kind of a clumsily bolted on feature people don't want to use. They don't want to give their data to this um, feature that it upsets their workflow. So a lot of organizations are thinking about how do we create digital and AI native solutions. So instead of bolting on this AI feature, it's how do you build something that's AI enabled from the ground up. And for established organizations, that's hard. Like you've got your existing infrastructure frameworks to build totally differently. That's hard. And so startups are hoping to get an advantage there. Everything they build from the beginning considers the power of AI to improve their product, but it also considers the AI enabled lifestyle of their users. So like Ani, you and I have talked about design thinking a lot in these sort of conversations and office hours, and yeah, for people joining, the biggest thing we have to say about design thinking, it starts with the user at the center. Who's going to be using whatever I'm building, designing, coding, and so now when we're thinking about those users, we must think about how AI affects their life. That's who we're designing for now.
Right. Welcome to the stage. Zeri, I think. I don't know if I pronounced your name right, so forgive me if I didn't. But Liz, let's talk to Liz real quick because
Right.
Liz, um, I believe Elizabeth is actually touch pointing on AI a lot. No, Elizabeth, I don't know if you can unmic. Okay, she probably can't unmic right now,
Right.
but I remember like she was doing a lot with AI, and she studied most of the theories. But I wanted to get her feedback on it. What about you, Lisa? Are you using AI as a touch point daily within your work or within any of your projects?
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, I am using, but I think I use like multiple different types of the AI platforms that are there. So obviously started off with the chat GPT. So it's like it has all your information, which is bad. It's bad because you're like, oh, how can I move this to the next platform? But I use it for, obviously it has more on the research aspect. It kind of builds on the research aspect, and you kind of have taught it to think in your way. Sometimes it can be funny. And then I have a conservative AI tool that I use, but mostly for template development. I still use Google. I still research on Google. I think for me, it's more of the practice aspect. So I like Claude for purposes of documentation. They're a bit strict on their templates, and they do have that this weird coding thing behind when
Yeah.
they're giving a template or something. So which is actually cool. But I think there is like lots and lots of stuff. Um, I've heard of Julius for ease of coding. Yeah, but it's like you can only run it like 15 times on the free thingy,
Yeah.
and then afterwards you need to pay for it. So the aspect of paying for something while you're feeding it data doesn't make sense. But it's like a whole 2016 story, when access to satellite imagery was a business and Africans could not get access to it. They had to pay a lot of money for it, but now it's freely available. It's data that you can't say you will hide it for a longer period of time. So I think there would be a time, maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, that the stuff will be free, but obviously the data behind it that has been trained will be now what costs organizations money.
Hmm.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Lisa, that like jumping around models because you only get so many tokens in a day and for some in a month. You mentioned the uh, coding capability of Claude. Now with a free Claude account, you can get their artifacts and you have limited tokens in a day. But I've found that if you like copy the code and put it into ChatGPT and then back
Yeah.
into Claude, like it sometimes or very often will get you a better result, and then you can spread out the tokens.
Mm.
A lot of people are having problems unmiking. So I see that as like, well, okay. So it might be just having to come in and out. But I see what Elizabeth put. She said, I'm unable to unmute. I use different AI apps like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Grok, and Gemini. For coding, I prefer Augment AI Agent. Oh, that's so cool. And you sure you can't unmic? We'd love to hear what you got to say
Mm.
because I know Elizabeth works with a lot of AI models. So it would be good to see if we could hear what she has to say about them. Um, but the team uses, ChatGPT. Well, I don't know if it's even ChatGPT. Ravine, I know you use AI in some of your work. Um, you want to share?
Yes. The main one is ChatGPT that we normally use on a daily basis. So there's this trend that was ongoing, I think some months ago, saying if you want to know more about yourself, go to ChatGPT, ask it, ask it to describe you, or maybe to tell you more about yourself. So there's a day that I did that. I went on chat and then I told chat GPT, can you kindly roast me? Oh my goodness. If you don't want to cry, please don't ask this AI to roast you because they basically know all our information. And to some point, to some point, it's scary. To some point, since it's making our work easier. Now, we are into using AI. Imagine, I can't imagine my day without ChatGPT. I can't imagine doing a task without ChatGPT. And also nowadays we have, since I'm into digital marketing, we have also other platforms that can help us create images and all that. So you don't have to create it from scratch. When you have an idea, maybe it shows you an idea of the graphics that you want, and then you go into your Canva and create it. And do you know other platforms like Canva, other platforms that are not AI, they're integrating it with AI. So nowadays you can use other platforms. Like an example, myself, I use Canva, but then I can also access some of AI features on Canva, which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I find all of it very interesting because I know I use it for more like a think tank sometimes, and like most people, but um, I always think of something and I'm always like, because my mind goes 24/7. I'm one of those people where the mind just don't want to shut off. So it's constant for me. So if I'm thinking of something and, like, oh, I can't talk to people about this, let me go bug chat GPT or one of the AIs, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Or, whatever the case may be. Um, Sometimes I even go in, I'm into like a lot of herbs and, I'm like, oh, what does this herb do? Can I combine it with this? you know, what about that? And what are the effects? So I love the fact that I can just, go in and pretty much ask most of the questions. I've tried uh, the Chinese, what is it? Deep
There's a few. DeepSeek is kind of the big one right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried their model, and I guess because I'm kind of used to how ChatGPT is, I liked it, and some of the questions I asked, I compared some of the answers, and I still went away and it's like, okay, you know what? I'm already logged into ChatGPT. I'm not going to pay for everyone and their
Right.
third cousin, so let me just stick to what I'm paying for now. That will switch in time because, like you said, some of them. I just think that some AI has some biases, right? And I mean, the biggest one being growth for me. Whenever I see that and some of the responses that it gives, I'm like, well, wait, that may not be, so correct, or some of the thought processes. So, what do you guys think of some of the bias that you're running across, if you're running across them when you're using the AI models?
Good one. I'll share. I'll also note, like, if for anyone who didn't see Elizabeth's response in chat, that she's using a bunch of different models. That's kind of the sign of an expert, right? You try different models for different things and start to establish a framework for what works best for which kind of tasks. We're in that place right now that you probably do need to use a bunch if you're in there. Oh, and I see you just responded, Elizabeth. ChatGPT for getting ideas, Claude for good documentation, complex tasks, but the chat lengths are usually limited. Yes, for project implementation and research documentation, Augment does the best. Yeah, see that's an expert's response. You know which kind of task, which model. And while folks are, please come off mute. Would love to hear some of the biases that you see or enter them into chat. If anyone's used ChatGPT, the deep research, you need to pay for it, and that it's so expensive if you're carrying a monthly um, account. I know, but you can see it's does present bias findings in an unbiased way, but if you don't coach it on what sources to look at, it looks at very limited sources, and so that is intrinsically biased. It's just looking for a few sources, and so you really have to push it and encourage it to consider different sources. You can actually prompt ChatGPT to say what sources should I ask for, and it will do a better job.
Right. I like the fact that it does, it will list the sources, because sometimes I feel like it just kind of like makes up whatever it wants to. and which I've noticed. I'm like, wait, where'd you get this whole thought process from? you know, oh well. And then it's funny because some of the responses like, well, it's typical, and I was like, that's not typical. So let's go ahead and source this before you give me information. So when I have it source it now, I since I've been reminding it constantly, then most of my stuff comes back with a source. So I won't just take its opinion because sometimes, well, we all know these models will just give you an answer.
Yeah, there's I know we've talked about this before in office hours, but the golden always and the golden never with these LLMs. Like Lisa, you were mentioning how it's collecting your data. So the golden never is never feed these things data that you wouldn't be happy for the world to share. I know when ChatGPT, I think it was in like the 3.5 model, they started making it possible for a free account to use imagery for a while there, and people would take pictures of their fridge contents and say like, what food can I make with the food in my pantry, uh, or what meals can I make with the food I have, which is a great application. But if you take a picture, like on the fridge behind me, I have a picture of my nephew, and if he got captured in the picture of my fridge, my nephew is now public domain. So you have to be really careful with the golden never. And then there's the golden always. And Ani, that's what you were describing. If you're getting something back, like you have to verify every fact. You have to, even if there's links in the body, you need to click on those links because sometimes they do not go where they promise to go. It's getting better and better and better at that all the time. But yeah, the golden always remains important.
Yeah, that's what's been happening. Like I'll click on a link because I'm obviously writing something that I need to triple check myself. Then from there, I'll click on the link, be like, this thing does not lead where you're saying. Like, do better. you know. So it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Then next thing you know, they'll send me a link from a few years back, and I'm like, okay, this is great. Felix, I like your question.
Yeah.
What do you think of the fact that Google, despite being one of the biggest players in AI, space to make they make their algorithm punish content pushed by AI. This is just my personal opinion. I believe because it all wants new data. So it can regenerate all of the data we've always put it into Google searches. I think that with Google and the way that they've always worked is that they have so much data on us already. So, and right now, anything that you do will be new. So, of course, it gets to eat that up. So, essentially, when you're regurgitating what it already knows, it gets mad because it already has
Mhm.
that information. So now it wants you to create new data, put in new content. We're all being told not to put information into Chat GPT or any of them. However, they know we're not going to listen. We don't
Mhm.
listen. So we'll ask it questions like, a lot of people, my sister's a doctor, OBGYN, and she said that what happened is a lot of people, they'll feel their symptoms and then they'll start typing it into Chat GPT. If they have just a little bit of information, they add even more information into, the AI. So from there, it spits out all of this, ask the doctor this, ask the doctor that, and then also don't forget to do this. So people are literally printing out their information from what ChatGPT said and taking it to the doctor. When they come back from the doctor, guess what they're doing? They're now entering some of that information in and getting feedback based on some of the diagnosis. People are actually uploading some of the, not so much the test results, some test results, but some things from the doctor asking for what is alternative medicine that I can use, or what is comparable to what I'm being given. So once again, we're feeding it. So when you say that, my opinion is just because we're being encouraged to feed the model.
Yeah, I love the question, Felix. So, like, as you say, Ani, probably like there's an incentive to collect fresh data. I know there's a lot of conversation out there as well about AI slop. So some people are using AI to do essential work, like Ravine, as you mentioned. You have a head start on creating imagery. It's documentation that can help AWIT to reach more women and help them achieve their dreams. But then there are some people that are using it for like less noble or altruistic causes. There's a lot of businesses that are just started up producing imagery a lot, things like that would get posted in social media spaces. And it is, these are still predictive engines, so they're kind of trained in sameness, right? So you get a lot of the same sort of thing that just now it's filling up a lot of social media places and work submissions and things like that with what is called AI slop. So I know a lot of organizations are thinking about how do we manage AI slop. You mentioned one is an algorithm that punishes. Others are taking a less punitive approach, but more like Meta. They want you to tag your AI content as AI generated. Different organizations are testing different ways of managing slop. And I know a lot of like hiring bodies, a lot of like big organizations that are hiring people. Of course, the first scan of someone's resume is done by a bot. And those bots are getting pretty sophisticated now at recognizing when an AI has generated your cover letter or your resume. And if there's too much of that, if it's too predictable, then there's a punishment associated with that. Those aren't making it to the next level. So AI slop is kind of the thing that I think the world is wanting to be careful of with that sort of punishment.
How do we ensure AI protects user privacy while still being genuinely helpful? Before I even finish the sentence, the CEO, Sam, of ChatGPT said, AI will not guarantee any privacy. Anything you put out in any of the AI models is public knowledge. They're not claiming to put anything through privacy. They see it as when you feed the AI, it's their information now. It's no longer your information. So I know you put sometimes when I need advice, I find myself going to consult AI like the rest of us. You're not doing anything different that everyone else is, not doing because what it is like it's a thought of having an expert that could answer some of your questions, especially since certain things, when you go to look it up or ask other people, it may cost you money, more money than what you're willing to spend. But now the opportunity is like there for you to ask. I mean, each time I'm like, okay, now I know damn well I should not be asking this question in this chat GPT because I know they're looking at it. They still study it. I don't see them ever getting away from it. I just think it's a model that's made for them to they're still building, let's just put it like that. And the more information you put in, the more we're training it, like Lisa said. So all that information is strictly for them a training ground. And I think it'll always be a training ground until we make rules around AI, and how that information can be used. Right now, it's kind of wide open. So I know it makes you think about what's happening with your data. I think that's all of us. I think it's all of us to a certain extent. It's like maybe I shouldn't have asked that question, or maybe I shouldn't put that in. But I think in the end, we're more looking for our answers that we can't ask, the next person, or even find a person to have that same conversation with. I think that if you're working on any type of startup and you don't have access to anyone, the AI models are going to walk you through your whole thought process. And I think that that's kind of priceless in a way. But yet and still, I'm putting all my business ideas into the AI model, which is open for anyone to essentially take a look at. So, regardless of what they say, they just keep saying over and over again the models are public. I mean, they can be. So there's no privacy attached to them. Be mindful of what you put in. So we have to keep reminding ourselves of that. And, I think if you use it so much, sometimes you're like, "Ugh, I've already used it enough. It knows enough about me," to where you just don't think about it anymore. But consciously, we do need to think about it because there has to be uh, some way we're actually able to not give it all of our information. And it's hard to say that because I know sometimes I'll be asking questions that I'm like, so what happens if I combine this and this and this? And I know it has something personal, right down to my hair color. I was like, how can I get my hair color in the most natural way? And I didn't like the color. So I was like, okay, so now I don't want to do a whole nother color, What can I do with this? Put a picture in, and it starts diagnosing and giving me all the information of what to do. I think that's like having that girlfriend that talks too much, and you're dumping information into and giving her all this information, knowing damn well she's going to go back and tell everybody else. It's the only way for you to think about it. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, I'm not a data security or data privacy professional or anything like that. So, you should look at smarter people than me. But uh, in the work that I do, like we simply could not put client data into any LLM. It's like it's part of our contracts. It would be way too risky for our clients if they had vendors doing that sort of thing. But even like personal information or our ideas, like a hack that some folks use that is very simple is before putting something into an LLM like a chat GPT, if you just have a doc, like a Google Docs or something open and do a find and replace. So look for any instances of your name, your organization's name, some of those things, just to like double check that what you're submitting is not, you're not revealing anything you wouldn't be happy to reveal.
What else has made you nervous about it, Ravine? Because she's over there laughing. She's like, I've done other things. I guess we should talk about like what we really like about it, because you use
Yeah.
it for a lot more than average.
Yeah, let's talk about what we like about it because
That's, that sounds like that guilty laugh, girl. You don't want to know what I put in that chat.
ah, so I think it has been my when I need a therapist around, I go to it and then maybe it gives me advices and all that. Aside from that, uh, it has really been helpful in terms of workspace. And before it came on board, I don't know how I was surviving literally. Because looking at it right now, I find like my work is made so much easier. At times, I imagine that I wake up in the morning, then I find that all of AI uh, are down. I don't know how I'll survive on that. So, even if you're looking at the good side, I think we are being addictive to it.
Dependencies. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know if we can overcome that or we have to play along. What are your ideas in terms of depending on the
Yeah.
AIs that
Yeah, it's so the thing is, so when thinking about AI and how it helps, that you can outsource or you can augment. What and I'm sure there are more categories, but those are two big ones people talk about. What are the tasks that I want to outsource to AI? It's just not worth my brain power. It's something I can do, but it can do it faster, like to crunch these numbers or something like that. Just outsource it to AI. And then there's the augmentation. What are the sorts of tasks that in the absence of AI you just couldn't do? Like I'm not a developer, I can't code. Well, now, like everyone else I can, because I just say what I need and the coding happens, like Claude, ChatGPT, they're running Python even when you don't ask it to. So the augmentation, that's where like a lot of people would suffer. And what's good about the models now is they make their work visible uh, in cases. And if you ask the models to make the work visible or tell you what they're doing, you can get taught. And so some of that augmentation work can become um, in time outsourcing work, things that you can do. And then for that outsourcing work, the thing to be careful of is the more you outsource work to an AI, like the lazier we become and the less likely we are to upgrade our work. So in the work that we do every day, we, find new ways of doing it. But if you're outsourcing that work to AI to do, then you're reassessing am I doing the right kind of work? And so that's the thing to be cautious of.
Mhm.
That sort of dependency, like we should still call into question, okay, I've had you running this report for me once a week, ChatGPT, but we should be asking, is that report really necessary? Or am I solving the right problem with this thing? It's just going to run the report for you. It's not going to ask those fundamental questions.
That's what I do. Like I make it ask, like I ask ChatGPT questions like, what did I not think of? You know, especially with my work. But I find, people say it makes us lazier. It makes us lazier in terms of like us sitting down to actually do any of the work ourselves, right? To where we're not putting in at least the beginning of some of the work. I find that I usually will start my sentences, or even if I'm like being writing an article, I will always put in at least maybe 30-40% of what I've written and then say, okay, can we expand out on this?
Yeah.
And then go from there. Um, that's how I found I'm using it now.
Yeah, like a great approach. That's called co-intelligence. When it
Hmm.
is a thought partner, the models are so advanced now. There are some things where we can't be a co-intelligence. Ethan Mollick is the professor at Wharton who wrote the book Co-Intelligence, and anyone he should subscribe to his Substack. It's free, called One Useful Thing. I'll drop that in chat. Um, so there are some things where the models are so advanced, it's just like wizardry. We can't be a co-intelligence. It's doing stuff we can't even understand. So I've just put in chat. I hope you can see it. The one useful
Yeah.
thing. And then
Yep.
the one above that is the study from INSEAD, the biggest business school or most acclaimed business school in France. And they, along with some other professors and researchers, did a study looking at chess masters. And I'll tell you what I remember about the study. I read it a few weeks ago, but they're essentially asking the question, should we get AI to nudge us or tell us what to do? So with people playing chess, that's a very measurable container to see the effectiveness of these things. When you have an AI tell a chess master what move to do next or what aspects of the board to pay attention to. So one is pay attention to this, one is do this specific thing. When you tell the chess master to do this specific thing, the move that it prescribes, the move the AI prescribes, is almost always the right move, better move than if they did it themselves. It's so more effective than just pay attention to these things. But their subsequent moves, after being told what move to do next, their subsequent moves are worse because they have outsourced their brains so much. They haven't been doing the critical thinking about the next move. So that's always important to think about, like, where do I need to activate my brain? Sometimes you just need the output from the AI, but sometimes you need to be processing these things, and it is the act of problem solving that makes you better. So that's an interesting kind of question that paper looks at.
That the fact that you brought that up is kind of amazing because I've noticed that when I'm using ChatGPT to where like it gets so tired. Well, I ask a lot of questions. Like at some point it starts to get tired of me and it crashes. So like, and I'm like, what happened? But I think it's because it's like overthinking and it has not thought about some of the next moves. So, and some of the questions that, or some of the answers it gives, it's like I'm challenging those. So as you're going further, with it, it's like, I think I'm just going to crash out now because it hasn't thought that far ahead. With some of the questions, some a line of questions, and I can't even remember how those came about, but it had to do with the fact that it might answer certain questions a particular way. And it's not for me, it didn't work. So I was trying to get it to switch the way it was thinking. And sometimes I felt like the AI model gets very lazy
Yeah.
because, yeah, 1 minute I'm not asking you for anything, but you're giving me an elaborate spreadsheet with arts and graphics and all of that. I didn't ask for that. But then, I go and I'm like doing something else and I actually need that. It's like, oh, no, I can't do that. Or, oh, no, I'm just going to slow down now or crash. So, it makes you feel like, oh, so y'all lazy. Oh, okay, I get it.
The models are trying to conserve resources at sometimes, right? And one of the tricks that is out there, um, if you ask it to, show your thinking, it's not really thinking, but that will prompt it to do more explicit reasoning. And they also, because they are trained by people, these models react to emotional um, prompting. So that is when you say things like, this is really important for my career, that sort of emotional appeal can often trigger it to work harder. That's weird, but that's one way to try and get past a bit of that laziness. I notice here Felix has a question. Thanks again, Felix. With AI replacing a lot of jobs, do you think institutions of learning, especially universities, are doing enough to prepare their graduates for a workplace where they will be required to prove themselves able to do more than what AI can already do for their potential employers? How can platforms like Lumo curve out usefulness in this gap? I'll start with one response and then would love to hear from some other folks. So I wonder about being able to prove themselves able to do more than AI. Uh, I know like a lot of the organizations we're working with, they're prioritizing people who can work better with AI. And it's not an expectation that you're smarter than the AI, but we need people at the helm in certain, not just work streams, but parts of the organization. So which people are better suited to do that are the people who know how to use the AI, know how to integrate it into their work, know how to ask those questions. Um, and what's it? CEO of a Fortune 300 company I got to see present recently. He said, "There's no need." This is him talking to his company, so the people in his company. He said, "There's no need for you to be afraid of AI taking your job, but you should be very afraid of the person who knows more about AI than you taking your job." So that's an unsatisfying answer. I know, Felix, I didn't really answer the question that you were asking, but I wonder if that's one way to think about it. And then are universities doing enough? Depends on the university, depends on even the professor. Within some universities, some professors are leaning in hard, like they're teaching their students about um, maybe you're in a class about politics or a class about philosophy. Some of those professors are um, enabling students, giving them tools so they can do some of the research in those spaces using AI better, but some professors are rejecting it. So yeah, I don't think there's a consistent approach right now, and I think maybe they're not doing enough right now, but there are some noble actors in those places that are pushing the envelope and doing cool stuff.
I agree. I have not. I know that some universities are actually, using training models to build out um, some of their learnings at most of the universities, but a lot of universities can't even touch point on it, just because it would be so expensive. Number one, number two, let's talk about the replacement of instructors. So no one's willing to touch that. So I think that ultimately it would be able to. I don't feel like it's at a point where it could be a full on professor, only because there are certain things that it just has not been able to tap into yet. I do feel like in another 2 years, it might be able to do something totally different. And it would be able to even give you a lot more things that you could even imagine because it's growing every day based on our data usage. And then also, I feel like a lot of us are creating, our own version of miniature chat GPTs or LLM models that's going to be out in the market. And I feel like um, those that have built or are building are the models that are going to be used more often than having to recreate your own. So I do see it taking off in a lot of places, but universities, I feel like universities will end up building out their own models. But it's going to be costly. And, I don't know how that's going to look for the future of education, but I believe that the only way to get there is by allowing the students to be able to use it now
Yeah.
without without them not having to. I think a lot of people are like, wait, they're already trying to do their homework using ChatGPT, you know? So how do we know it's them versus, the AI?
Yeah, like even a year ago, a lot of schools were calling that like a crisis of people aren't doing their own homework. Now it's just accepted that ChatGPT is doing their homework. So what is the assignment that they're given that requires thinking and intelligent prompting of the student? Um, and not just the AI. Like MIT released a study, this is a few months ago now, SAT questions. That's like a test in America, where in the United States, where um, people graduating high school get tested to see what their score is, kind of like their a measure of their learning across their high school years. And so MIT did this study essentially looking at testing people where they have outsourced to, I think they were using ChatGPT or some LLM, outsourced the question to the LLM and got it back. And then in subsequent tests, those people who worked more with the AI, of course, tested worse. Now, my opinion is that for some of those questions where it's like a simple math question, you should be using AI. Why not outsource it to the AI? So I think it's a flawed study in that way, but there is something interesting to be learned there. And for people in education, yeah, where are we happy for people to just outsource? Where are we happy for people to augment? And how do we help students to use these tools better to do a higher order of thinking than they could without? It's the same as like, decades ago, people worried about if students use calculators in math, then we're turning our brains off. We'll, decline as a species. But what it's really meant is we can do math much quicker than we could before, allowing us to access higher orders of maths.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that thought process. And, it's for the future. I do believe that, we will be using it more often than not. I think that the only crisis that we're going to have to deal with is all the energy usage,
Mm,
which I think that over time it'll get better. But I do believe that even in North America, as soon as they launch and start using AI more often, it will crash a lot of our power grids until they learn how to balance it. Um, and that is the only concern that I see in the horizon, besides the issue of privacy and information shared, and then also the AI bias. Um, I think that those issues will be addressed and are being addressed. And I do think that regulations will come into play. But right now, they don't exist. But I do believe that, as with most things, just like the market, rules came into play with stock market when people started losing money because they were being taken advantage of, so on and so forth. So people actually fought back, and government had to put policies in place.
yeah.
If it's the same way AI will go.
So a year ago, Ani, if you compared a Google search to like a Gemini prompt, I think it was 800% greater power usage for the AI prompt. But in 2025, May of 2025, as compared to May of 2024, the average, or sorry, not average, median Gemini prompt uses 33 times, not 33%, 33 times less energy than it did.
Mm.
So there, we're getting a lot more sophisticated on. I have no doubt we're steering towards a crisis with energy usage here, but they are getting a lot better. But our usage is also going way up. So yeah, that's a 97% reduction in 1 year for, yeah, the Gemini model.
And also, like, to tie that in, the reason why, besides the AI models, you also have cryptocurrency, which uses a lot of power as well. So I think that with the two being combined, and as usage increases, because right now it's not a lot of people that are, tapped into crypto, besides a lot of techies. And, the general market is starting to wake up now that they're seeing these things happen. But I believe that in combination is where we'll have some of our issues. But, we'll see, because they are, like you mentioned, they're rapidly trying to build data centers, that is solar powered, but we'll see how fast they can make that happen. So, With that said, I don't know if anyone has any questions, or if you wanted to make any comments before we close out. We just want to thank Andrew for, once again coming on board and, letting us know about his travels because we had to live through him. And then being able to phase into our AI topics. Um, does anyone have any comments before we close this session out?
It's one from Gautam. AI is more of a tool than a replacement. Instead of replacing entire jobs, it's going to replace tasks inside of jobs. Gautam, that's often referred to as like the super agency. So it's not taking away agency from people, these tools, it's giving them time, taking away undesirable tasks so we can appropriate our agency to higher order tasks. And then Lisa, true on the energy uses, but new minerals extracted and less thought of decomposition after use as well. Right, there are lots of things that right now we're trying to make the most. We are maximizing AI instead of optimizing AI. And maximizing is when you start to do damage.
Okay. So thank you so much for that, Andrew. And thank you for addressing those comments because I definitely did not. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us for office hours. We look forward to the next office hours. Everyone have a wonderful rest of the day, the rest of your day, because my day just begun. But some of you, you're like in 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But otherwise, everyone have a good day.